territory in southern Lebanon, destroy the villages there, and annex the territory to the state of Israel. And that is yet a member of another party there calling
Jesus
for the implementation
Christ,
of a
dude.
doctrine understood as this strategy of overwhelming, using disproportionate force and the destruction of civilian infrastructure. And while the war is still playing out in real time, the top intelligence officials in the country just sat in front of the Senate and they couldn't, or I guess wouldn't, answer a basic question. Did the president know that striking Iran would shut down the Strait of Hormuz and trigger attacks on our allies? Or because he was either told and then lied about it, or he wasn't told and his own intelligence agencies failed him? Right after 3 hours of testimony, we still don't know which one it's supposed to be, because Tulsi Gabbard, she spent most of the hearing insisting that it's not her job to answer. And actually, to kind of set this up for you, you had the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and other top officials testifying before the Senate Intelligence Committee yesterday on the war and broader security threats. And this is a hearing that was especially high stakes for Gabbard. She's a long-time anti-interventionalist who has publicly opposed military action in Iran. A year ago, sitting before this same committee, she downplayed Iran's nuclear weapons program, prompting Trump to publicly say she was wrong. And since Trump started this Iran war, she's been almost completely silent. The only time she said anything of substance was after Joe Kent resigned as director of the National Counterterrorism Center, where he said that he couldn't support the war and that Iran didn't pose an imminent threat, with Gabbard issuing a lukewarm statement arguing that Trump has the authority to determine if there is an imminent threat and that he made his determination based on intelligence that her office provided. And a key thing is what she didn't say, right? She didn't say that she personally believed the intelligence showed an imminent threat. And with Kent's resignation, right, becoming this flashpoint, you have some speculating about how long Gabbard lasts in this administration, or at least in this role. Because a big part of Trump 2.0 is you don't get fired, you get kind of just moved around. And actually with all this, one of the things we saw was Ratcliffe pushing back on Kent's claims directly.
I think Iran has been a constant threat to the United States for an extended period of time and posed an immediate threat at this time.
But when asked if an Iranian missile could threaten the U.S. within 6 months, he didn't give a timeline. And Gabbard, meanwhile, she noted in her opening statement that a previous Defense Intelligence Agency report said that Iran couldn't build a viable missile to reach the U.S. before 2035. And when Senator Ossoff pressed her on whether the intelligence community assessed an imminent nuclear threat, which is what the White House claimed as justification for the war, she tried to kind of pass the buck.
Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the president based on a volume of information
it is precisely
that he receives.
It is precisely your responsibility to determine what constitutes a threat to the United States. This is the worldwide threats hearing. You're here to be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations.
Exactly what I'm doing.
No, you're evading a question because to provide a candid response to the committee would contradict a statement from the White House.
Also, the other major line of questioning was whether the intelligence community warned Trump about what would happen to the Strait of Hormuz and to U.S. allies in the Gulf. Because Trump has publicly said multiple times that nobody predicted Iran would attack its neighbors or shut down the strait. And you had the senators wanting to know, is that true, or did he just ignore what he was told? And you had Senator Wyden going first.
Every problem we're seeing now was not only foreseeable, but was actually predicted by the intelligence agencies. So, Director, in the lead up to the start of this war 3 weeks ago, did the intelligence agencies stick to their assessment that in response to an attack, the Iranians had the capability to shut down the Strait of Hormuz?
Thank you, Senator Wyden. The intelligence community has continued to provide the president and his team with the intelligence related to this operation in Iran.
With the senator then asking Gabbard if intel agencies assessed that Iran could strike U.S. partners. And then Wyden brought up Trump's own words.
Donald Trump was asked about Iranian strikes on the Gulf states. He said, and I quote, no, the greatest experts, nobody thought they were going to hit the Gulf states. You all are supposed to be the greatest experts. That's what we have you there for. Director Gabbard, did the intelligence agencies assess that Iran could conduct strikes on our own partners in the region if it was attacked?
The intelligence community has continued to assess the potential threats to the region, the existing threats to the region, and providing those assessments to the policymakers.
You also had Senator Angus.
Come on, that's not an answer, bro.
Any predictions?
What are we doing here?
At the Strait of Hormuz?
What are we doing?
All you got to do is look at a
Like, listen to this answer again. Like, I don't know if you guys are MAGA people, if you're not MAGA people, if you're even Americans in here, but like, I want you to look at this response or listen to this response. I don't know if you guys are hard of hearing. I'll keep that on just in case. But the way that Tulsi Gabbard answers this question, and I'm not biased, right? I don't care who it's coming from. I'm not left, I'm not right. I just want to be able to have leaders that I can trust and see how they interact, like see if they're being honest and see if they're being open about it, right? And this answer is not an answer, right? This is the kind of politicians at the tippy top that we're dealing with.
We're seeing now was not only foreseeable, but was actually predicted by the intelligence agencies. So, Director, in the lead up to the start of this war 3 weeks ago, did the intelligence agencies stick to their assessment that in response to an attack, the Iranians had the capability to shut down the Strait of Hormuz?
Thank you, Senator Wyden. The intelligence community has continued to provide the president and his team with the intelligence related to this operation in Iran.
But the senator then asked,
He asked a yes or no question. He asked whether or not, these were threats, essentially, right? And all she did was say, we clocked in, we got information, we clocked out. That's literally not what I asked you. If I come into my job and I'm looking at like a McDonald's or something like that, and I'm like, did we hit our goal for sales today? And you're like, we came in and we sold cheeseburgers and Happy Meals and chicken nuggets. And that data we gave to the shift manager. And they gave that data to the community. Like, you're not actually engaging with the question. That's a non-answer. That shouldn't be like, she should not be allowed to proceed with any other questions until she can actually answer that. Like that, nobody in that room should be allowing that kind of conduct. I don't care if it's coming from the left or the right. That sort of behavior for this sort of important information, like we're talking about war. We're talking about war here, where the intelligence that we have is incredibly important. Okay. The intelligence that we have is important, and being able to assess threats is important. I know she mentioned also that she doesn't assess threats herself, which is a really stupid thing to say, but okay, let's just carry on. Let's watch this part again.
Collaborative intel agencies assessed that Iran could strike U.S. partners. And then Wyden brought up Trump's own words.
Donald Trump was asked about Iranian strikes on the Gulf states. He said, and I quote, nobody, no, the greatest experts, nobody thought they were going to hit the Gulf states. You all are supposed to be the greatest experts. That's what we have you there for. Director Gabbard, did the intelligence agencies assess that Iran could conduct strikes on our own partners in the region if it was attacked?
The intelligence community has continued to assess the potential threats to the region, the existing threats to the region, and providing those assessments to the policymakers.
You also had Senator Angus King then pressing harder.
Any predictions to the president about the
It's not an answer.
Hormuz? All you got to do is look at a map and you'll see that the vulnerability of the Strait of Hormuz. Was that part of the briefing, Director Gabbard?
I think the Director Ratcliffe made the point here is that this has long been an assessment of the IC, that Iran would likely hold the Strait of Hormuz as leverage.
And my question is, was that communicated to the president in the lead up to this action?
And it's because of that long-standing assessment that the IC has continued to report that the Department of War took the preemptive planning measures that it did.
Well,
what?
They've stated that they did not plan for the Strait of Hormuz. The president said, who knew that was going to happen?
Also, Ratcliffe was...
You see what I'm saying? Like the president's saying one thing and they're saying another thing. And they just can't even get on the same page about it. It's ridiculous. Sorry, I'm reading something real fast.
Slightly
That's
less
sweet.
evasive here.
Senator, I'll answer the question. So with regard to briefings, the president gets briefings constantly about intelligence.
But you had both Gabbard and Ratcliffe claiming that they weren't aware of Trump's public statement, saying that nobody predicted these outcomes, which of course is incredibly hard to believe given that he has been saying this thing repeatedly for days. Why do they lie like this is a question I constantly ask myself. Right, and so then with all this, Democratic...
Thank you, Philip DeFranco. Thank you. Why do they lie like this? Why do they need to lie like this? It is outlandishly ridiculous, and it's even more ridiculous and more cartoonish that we allow this to
We're
happen.
trying to figure out if the president knew what the downside.
Like, this is a clown show. They should be locking these people up like right now. Like, why are you not answering questions? There are rules and regulations, and like there's certain ways of conducting yourself. Where is the accountability? This is what I'm saying, is like every time we see this conduct, there's no accountability for it. So why not just keep, you're incentivized to keep doing it. They're doing it because it works. They lie this much because it works for so long. It's ridiculous.
Strait of Hormuz being closed. And I'm having a hard time finding out whether the White House asked or whether there was a brief, whether the president knew. Did he know this was going to happen? Or did he just disregard it?
And part of the reason, or I guess part of the supposed reason for the tight lips, is that these officials are also testifying in a closed door session today where they can discuss more sensitive matters, right? Including the prospect of boots on the ground in Iran. And so in theory, some of these answers may be coming, but again, in theory. Right, and then with all of this, we should talk about this moment that kind of put a bow on everything. Because you had Senator Mark Kelly pulling up a fundraising email for a pro-Trump committee.
In this email here, where there's multiple links to donate money, it says, as a national security briefing member, you'll receive my private national security briefings. Director Gabbard or Director Radcliffe, do you think the public should be able to, supporters of the president should be able to pay and receive his private national security briefings?
Regardless of what that I don't know what that document is, but regardless of what it says, it didn't happen.
With Gabbard also saying she was unfamiliar with the email as well. And so just to recap, the administration just can't get on the same page about why this war started. The top intelligence officials won't say whether the president was warned about the consequences. And Trump, he's out here treating national security briefings like a Patreon subscription where his biggest donors get exclusive content. All while the intelligence community's job is to tell the president the truth. The president's job is then to make decisions based on that truth. And then the public's job, through their elected representatives, is to hold both accountable. And so since one or both of the first two seem to just be broken, the story, in addition to keeping you up to date, it also serves as a reminder. You, I, we, the public, we have a job to do, whether it be a special election, a primary, the midterms, a big general. And it's part of the reason why it's so important to be formed and knowledgeable about what's happening. It's not just so that we could just feel horrible about the state of the world. It is so we are equipped to do something about it, whether it be voting, whether it be
I mean, what he's saying, I definitely agree with. I'm trying to be more educated. I'm trying to be more active. That's why I'm also trying to live stream, just to force myself to want to talk about it more and to also have to study what I talk about, right? Doing the dive into Jim Crow, doing other deep dives into other topics, things of that nature. It's just, it's comedic how badly these people lie, but they get away with it. So why wouldn't they, right? And they've been getting away for so long that there are people who are just delusional to the fact that they're just lying, because no one is crazy enough to think that people can get away with lying this bad until you actually just see it happening, right? And so you got these crazy Trump supporters. Like, if you're a Trump supporter in the chat, let me know, man. We need to have a talk, because this is ridiculous. Like, if you're not a Trump supporter, please hit the like button, whatever it is. If you're watching on YouTube Shorts, please hit the little tap, like the like button or the heart button. Try to get that out there so that we can boost the signal and get some Trump supporters in here either tonight or the next time I stream. I'm trying to get more of those people in here, because I'm just, their feet need to be held to the fire. And this is just getting so laughably ridiculous. If you're not American, you probably don't know what the hell I'm talking about. You might have an idea of who Donald Trump is. I don't know. Depends on how deep you are into politics, international politics. But Trump is just the worst president of my lifetime, hands down. And people like to use the whole Trump derangement syndrome. For those, again, who are out overseas, there's a term that Trump supporters use as a shield against any criticism against Donald Trump, which is called Trump derangement syndrome. Anyone who criticizes Trump has Trump derangement syndrome, and there's crazy people who hate Trump for no rational reason. That's their argument. That's their defense that they go to. And they almost use it in a literal way. Like, it's almost like, I don't know if they're crazy enough to believe that it's literally a thing, or if they're just trying really hard to gaslight and be like facetious or something, and use this shield of Trump derangement syndrome from any sense of accountability or any rational argument against anything they believe in. It's really, really weird and immature, and like it's beyond immature, because I feel like a child would be better at this than these people are. And it's more rational for a child to think like, oh, no, you have Trump derangement syndrome. You're crazy. You got cooties, right? Like it feels like you have cooties level of idiocy for an adult to be saying with a straight face Trump derangement syndrome. Like any adult, any grown ass adult that says Trump derangement syndrome is a fucking idiot. There's no other way to put it. There's no other way to put it. You're a fucking idiot if you ever use the term Trump derangement syndrome against somebody that criticizes you. You've got fucking problems, bro. Like you don't know how to actually have an intellectual argument. Like you don't know how to have an intellectual conversation with people and debate your arguments or your points. You have to go to a pseudo ad hominem where you're trying to make it sound like a medical diagnosis for why they don't like what you like. It's fucking stupid. It's fucking stupid, dude. Go believe in your magic fairies and shit. You know, I'm sorry, I'm criticizing the Bible a little bit here. I'm getting annoyed by just the ridiculousness of this. But like the Bible, if you look at the Bible objectively, and if you don't believe in the Bible, it's a little bit easier to do this. If you believe in the Bible, it almost feels like blasphemy to probably attempt this. But the Bible is just a book of like magic and craziness. It's ridiculous. If you look at it and you judge it by today's standards, and when I say judge it by today's standards, I mean the God that wrote this book, allegedly, you know, the Christian, the Bible, he already knew everything that was, will be, everything that was, everything that will be, and everything that there ever was. There's like a third one. Is everything there is, everything there was, everything there will be. I was like, what is the now version? God already knew all that shit, right? And he still gave a lot of rules and regulations about how to own slaves and how to sell your women and like all this other stuff, right? Like, I don't know why he couldn't have 11 commandments and make the 11th one don't own slaves. But for some reason, he had like specific rules about eating shellfish and wearing mixed cloth and shit like that, right? My point, though, is that if you can believe that the Bible is literal, right, you believe in magic. And when you can believe in magic or like, you know, believe in things that just aren't rational, then you are really susceptible to a lot of ridiculousness to come your way. Like you're going to believe a lot of ridiculousness.
Donating time, donating money, whatever. Right? Getting the word out so we all can collectively be the change we want to see. And there's, I don't know, some sort of accountability. And well, at this point, that word seems miles away. You got to have eyes on the prize. The truth of the matter is no one is coming to save us. It's on all of us. And then there's even more that we've got to dive into today. But first, let me thank a sponsor and say, use code DeFranco at checkout. Diving right back into the news, we've got to talk about how left-leaning Democrats got wiped out in the Illinois primaries yesterday. And the money trail, it tells a big part of the story. Right? APAC-affiliated groups, crypto PACs, and AI industry donors poured over $32 million into just 4 Chicago House races. And with them winning most of them, there are now real questions about whether these groups are quietly reshaping what the Democratic Party actually looks like. Especially as, among other things, the war in Iran makes their influence more controversial than ever. So Cook County Commissioner Don Miller, former Representative Melissa Bean, and Lieutenant Governor Julia Stratton all won big yesterday. With Miller beating former Representative Jesse Jackson Jr., who had $1.4 million from a top AI super PAC after receiving nearly $4.5 million from an APAC-affiliated group. APAC groups also threw $4 million behind Bean. Stratton, backed largely by Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Hold on. There's so many numbers flying.
More controversial than ever. So Cook County Commissioner Donna Miller, former Representative Melissa Bean, and Lieutenant Governor Julia Stratton all won big yesterday. With Miller beating former Representative Jesse Jackson Jr., who had $1.4 million from a top
$1.4 million. Damn.
AI super PAC after receiving nearly $4.5 million from an APAC-affiliated group. APAC groups also threw $4 million behind Bean. Stratton, backed largely by Governor J.B. Pritzker with $14.4 million from him, beat Representative Robin Kelly. And not only are these not small numbers, they tell a bigger story about who's actually picking the candidates. Right? Bean.
See, now, this is why I don't like politics as a whole and why I don't think the Democrats and Republicans should be parties anymore, is we're still doing some weird shit, some things that I don't think are good practices for integrity, right? Where the leadership system in America, it heavily weighs on trust and integrity. And if we're allowing people to just spend money, like I'm not going to claim to understand fully how the money moves, but I take issue with this concept of how much money is being raised and who's doing it. I don't have a problem with politicians supporting other politicians, but I feel like there needs to be a better way of doing it than just giving them money. I don't think we're sending the right message to us the citizens by how we're maintaining this sort of thing. Because what if somebody is a legitimately great leader for this country, but they just do not have the funds or the team around them to make that happen? There's not really a feasible way for this person to rise through all the muck, right? It feels very much like this is a way for people who not necessarily are great leaders, but are great earners to rise to the top, right? It has nothing to do with your ability to lead until you actually get the job. And at that point, it's kind of a gamble. Everything else is just marketing and money, right? I don't feel like this is a sustainable way to maintain integrity, right? We're not looking for leaders. Clearly, if we were, we wouldn't have this process. We're looking for people who can make money and make us money, you know, being the other politician. Like JB Pritzker isn't just donating money out of the kindness of his heart or however he's sending that money. I don't know who's paying for that, if it's coming out of his coffers or if it's his personal amount. I highly doubt it's city money or state money from Minnesota, I believe. JB Pritzker, Minnesota. Hopefully you guys can see the issue that I'm taking here, right? Because I hold my issue to be I am remaining neutral in this, right? Nonpartisan. You're having issue where my neighborhood is very noisy and can't sleep. Advice. Yes. Noise canceling headphones. I got you, man. I got you. Just get some noise canceling headphones. You'll be set for life. Perfect. You know? But yeah, so I just think that I don't mind calling out Democrats when it's time to call out Democrats for issues. I am prioritizing the conservative part, the Republican Party, because they're the ones that are responsible for Trump and all these other crazies that are in office right now. It isn't just Trump, right? But it isn't just Nancy Pelosi on the Democrat side either. It's just this practice, the way that we're doing it. There needs to be some big change. Where are you from?
Ad campaign painted her opponent as a friend of Elon Musk and fossil fuel interests, even though he's a fairly progressive politician. Meanwhile, Bean herself is generally seen as a centrist ex-lawmaker, but heavy ad support from AI and crypto PACs portrayed her as more progressive than she's likely to govern. And in Illinois' 9th district, AIPAC spent most of the race attacking Evanston Mayor Daniel Biss. And because that's not the only person they went after, and because Biss won anyway and their candidate lost, they kind of just pivoted seamlessly, posting on Twitter that they were proud to have helped defeat Kat Abu-Ghazaleh, a fiercely anti-Israel candidate and would-be squad member. And that PR move, it didn't go unnoticed. For you at a senior House progressive telling Axios, AIPAC wanted Daniel Biss to lose. And adding, it seems their spending harmed their candidate because it's so toxic in this politically active district.
So here's the thing, right? This goes back to what I was saying before. And this is when I first started getting into politics. This was during the Obama administration. I wasn't into politics, but I had opinions about it, right? Like that I kept to myself. And one of those things is how cutthroat it is. And you don't see how bad it is until it's time for what I believe is called the primaries. I'm so bad with the terminology, but when the Democrats are running against each other for the like position, right? They are so cutthroat towards each other. And then after that's all done, it's like we all forget about that. Like, bro, you made an ad campaign talking about how I do this, that, and this and that, and I'm a terrible person. And that's why people shouldn't vote for me. Like that, for me personally, that extends beyond just me getting the position and then we're all hunky. Like, I'm never cool with you. I'm never going to be cool with you. If you do a smear campaign on me, am I going to lose my shit? No, that's just part of the game, right? I worked sales for 10 years. I know how to be cutthroat. However, if we're going to act like we have integrity, if we're going to act like we're actually upstanding citizens of America, we can't just do a fucking smear campaign and when everything is all said and done, act like it never happened and never bring it up ever again. Nah, we're not cool. We're not cool, bro. Like, I don't want to be in a party that does that to its own people. The Democratic Party shouldn't allow that to ever happen. Like, if I was the head of the Democratic Party and I saw two candidates doing smear campaigns against each other during the elections, I would fucking fire both of them. I understand it doesn't work that way. I get it. But I'm saying if I was a leader of the Democratic Party right fucking now, and I see two Democrats making smear campaigns against each other, you're fucking out of the Democratic Party. You're done. Get the fuck out. I don't want that here. We're not bringing some bitch shit to the fucking Democratic Party. This is why I can't be a Democrat or Republican, because they both do this bitch shit. Like, and then they act like it's no big deal. I'm sorry. I can call it, I can see it for what it is and maintain that status quo. But you best believe that I'm going to think that that's bullshit. That's wrong. That's not good. That's not how we should conduct ourselves. And I'm going to be mentioning that every chance that I get. This is why I would never be a Democrat, because they do this shit. I saw an ad campaign a couple days ago on like Facebook or something. I was just kind of scrolling and I saw that and I thought about this and I'm like, God damn, dude, like they do it too. They're doing it too, right? The whole, I feel like this one's more tame, but it got a little bit weird towards the end with the pastor guy, and it was Texas. Why can't I remember their names right now? I know both their names. I know both of their names. So annoying. But there's these two candidates. One's a black woman, one's a white guy. And some stuff got kind of weird, like with some of the interviews and things of that nature, and trying to get Tallarico. James Tallarico is one of them. And then I will remember her name at some point. Jasmine Crockett was the other one. He said, stop babbling and engage chat. I am. I saw what you said. I'm here to babble, man. Don't be rude. What do you got to say? You've only really said statements about like what you've done. I mean, I don't have an opinion on Kat. And I cannot pronounce her last name right now. I got to listen to it like 3 or 4 more times before I really know how to pronounce it properly. But yeah, you're in the Midwest as well. That's really cool. I don't know if I know you or not. If you know me, then you got to let me know. And then I gave you advice. The North's canceling headphones.
There's the
what you mean, man?
transparency issue. AIPAC funneled its Illinois spending through new super PACs called Elect Chicago Women and Chicago Progressive Partnership, right? Names that don't exactly scream Israeli lobby. And they only claimed credit after the results were in, which is also wild because you had people shouting, hey, that's anti-Semitic, when you had people saying that AIPAC was doing this. But also with all these races, right, the scale is hard to overstate. 4 Chicago House candidates saw more than $32 million in outside spending, led by AIPAC groups at upward of $20 million, with crypto and AI PACs filling in the rest. And understand, that's just Illinois. Reports say that AIPAC, the AI industry and the crypto sector, they have collectively had about $340 million to spend on political efforts at the start of this year. And yesterday's primaries, they were just a test run for reshaping the Democratic Party heading into the midterms. And the influence, I mean, it was visible even before the election. You saw some of these candidates openly posting pro-AI and pro-crypto.
We can lead in AI innovation and set smart card rules. Americans must lead the world in artificial intelligence, keep crypto entrepreneurs here at home. AI has the potential to be a lifeline for unpaid caregivers. Jesse Jackson Jr.
Crypto positions, essentially flirting with these industries to attract financial back. And then on the other side of this, the left had a rough night. The Congressional Progressive Caucus landed just one of its 4 endorsed candidates, BIS. Justice Democrats, the group that had success unseating moderate incumbents in the past, they also came up short. And that's being seen as a real blow coming off of the energy that Mamdani's rise in New York and the New Jersey special election. Or things that gave a lot of progressives hope that the party was pulling more and more left as the primaries progressed. But after yesterday, you have some saying not so fast and others arguing, you need different kinds of Democrats in different kinds of places. So I would also argue, especially as you look at
what do I call you, by the way? Because your name is like 32XDO. What can I call you?
A lot of these races with just a lot of people, it's a really good argument for ranked choice voting. Right? Whether it's the surprise like in Boca Raton, Florida, of all of a sudden a Dem won by like 1 to 5 votes, though with well under 50% of the votes, there's that. Or BIS beating Abu Ghazaleh, even though they were both well under 50%. But of course, that's just me with my eyes pointed towards the future and not the current situation on the ground, which obviously every candidate is going to have to navigate. Then also with everything we're talking about today, what makes all of this even messier is the war in Iran. AIPAC money that is backing Democratic candidates, it now comes with a war tag attached. And Stratton, the favorite to win her general election, which would actually make her a part of the first time 3 black women have served in the Senate simultaneously, she's pro-Israel. Miller opposed U.S. military aid to Israel, but supports a 2-state solution. Bean's a returning centrist. And these are the candidates that AIPAC's money helped select. And voters now have to weigh, what that money means for where these people land on the biggest foreign policy crisis in a generation. So you're seeing some Democrats saying things like, it's difficult to trust politicians who take money from weapons manufacturers and AIPAC, all of whom are for this war. And for those politicians to then stand up and say they are against the war. And more progressive Democrats think that the party should be rejecting AIPAC donations entirely to avoid the conflict of interest. So you then have moderates saying, you can take the money and then still oppose the war, accusing progressives of manufacturing a conflict for electoral gain. All of this, it's the
don't we feel like that? I mean, do you guys feel like that's a conflict of interest? Conflict of interest, yeah. Like to take the money and then to still hold your own moral beliefs. it is one thing to just be an average person, but it's another thing to be a politician who's representing morals and ethics, right? Those like the values, the morals, the ethics, those are what are the foundation, like the cultural, right? They're a representation of those cultural values, morals, ethics, and needs or wants. So for them to take money from a group that does not ethically align with what they're doing, I think it's cause for concern or cause for pause, right? I'm not saying that they shouldn't be able to do it ever at all. I'm just saying that there should be a mature conversation about it. And we aren't having those mature conversations from what I'm seeing in these hearings, right? These shit show of hearings. Y'all got to let me know though. Like I want to hear, you know, especially if you're in the States, how you feel about it. Not just like necessarily what you did or how you know, who you voted for. That's fine. And we can talk about that because I don't know much about the person that you mentioned earlier. I've been hearing more about them recently, but a lot of it has been like smear. Like she was the person that I heard about when someone was doing like a smear campaign against her, if I recall correctly. But like this stuff is really ridiculous. And it's why I think in part we have an issue with the administration is you still have these career politicians in the Democratic Party too, who care more about personal gain than actual integrity. And, you know, I can't fault them for that in terms of how they are, you know, their personal aspirations. I can fault them, however, in terms of them doing their fucking job. Okay. They have a job they're supposed to do, and that job cannot be corrupted by temptations or by conflicts of interest and things of that nature. And I think that there's a higher standard that we need to hold our politicians to moving forward now until forever. I'm pessimistic, right? I'm very pessimistic about us getting there without more better leaders being in places of power who don't necessarily desire the power or the influence, right? That's really hard to come by. And I think that power, I don't want to word this in an absolute, right? Because this isn't exactly how I feel, but I think power does corrupt, right? That's the short version of the explanation that I would give, is that power corrupts. But I don't think it's that simple. But I think that you can be corrupted by power, maybe is a better way to say that. You can be corrupted by power, or you can let power corrupt you, is how I would say it. Yes. How I would say it is that people can let power corrupt them. I think it is a choice, maybe not always conscious. Maybe sometimes it's intentionally not conscious, you know, lying to yourself kind of stuff, convincing yourself it's justifying it, etc. You know, but that's how it has to be. Like, I'm sorry, like maybe I'm being very black and white about this, but accountability is one of those things where I don't think you can be as gray as we've been about it. I'm not saying it needs to be pure black and pure white, but the accountability is all gray right now, and everybody is just doing whatever they want.
Mention that the Democratic Party is going to have to figure out and figure it out fast, because AIPAC and its allies, they have the money to pick winners. They just proved that in Illinois. But that money also comes with strings that are becoming harder and harder to ignore as the war is raging on in the Middle East, and voters are paying closer and closer attention to where their candidates' funding is coming from. Seemingly, the party is supposed to be anti-war. Its donor class is backing pro-Israel candidates. Its progressive wing is getting outspent, and the infighting over whether to accept AIPAC money is exactly the kind of internal fracture that could cost Democrats seats that they need in November. And the Democrats aren't the only ones split on AIPAC. Right in his resignation letter from the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent warned against AIPAC's influence on our government, and that was also something that wasn't received well by some on the right, like Ben Shapiro.
One last thing I'll mention too is this shit that's being explained right now. This takes away from my confidence for the Democratic Party to handle anything urgent or soon, right? Anything recent, anything coming up. I can't trust the Democratic Party with my vote fully. I can't vote Republican either. So it's like, I don't have a party or candidates that I can really rely on. And it's like the affiliation thing. I talked about this. I had a debate with some MAGA people. It went to shit, unfortunately. So I never really got to actually have a real conversation about this. But I fully believe that if you are part of a group and that group is doing something that is ethically or supposed to be ethically against what you represent as a group and or as an individual, that you need to either separate yourself from that or express explicitly like your separation from that group. Like I'm not part of these Nazis. Like these group of people I'm not a part of. I just don't want to be like, I don't want them here. I don't think they should be at our events. I don't think they should be at our rallies, right? How that works, right? I'm not saying there's some fine science to doing it every single time or whatever, but like it's very easy to leave a paper trail about your ethics online nowadays. So it's not like you need to do it every single time, but I don't see it happening at all, right? I don't see people denouncing these groups. And the same thing here. I don't see enough people denouncing, not Ben Shapiro. Well, I see enough people denouncing him too, but he deserves it. But denouncing these less, these victimless crime kind of behavior, right? Where it's not necessarily a crime, but you're benefiting yourself and you're making these decisions and making votes and making bills and laws based off of personal interest. That's not sustainable for true growth, for true social and economic growth of a country.
Letter is deeply, deeply conspiratorial. It states openly that, quote, Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Now, that is conspiracy trash.
Right, $340 million. It buys a lot of candidates. We are seeing that, but the question that remains is whether it buys a party where voters actually want to show up for. And while time will tell how all this shakes out, in the meantime, I'd love to know your thoughts in those comments down below. But that, my friends, you beautiful bastards, is the
Cool. Yeah, man. I mean, I like watching Phil DeFranco. I feel like he covered a lot of topics that I'll end up looking into for things. So he's usually a good like barometer for what's going on. One of the few people that I think now less so than before, but he tries his best to be objective. Since Trump got elected the first time, I think that he has tried his best to state the facts as they are, but it's incredibly hard to not state your own opinion or to interject in some form or fashion. And so like for anybody that's not watched him before, I've been watching Phil DeFranco for years. Do I always agree with his takes? No, we seem to have a similar arc with both our lives, our content, and less so our content, but just how we think about the issues around us and how we analyze that information and how we try to be both unbiased to the best of our abilities. And I think that in my own way, I am very unbiased, and I hate to toot my own horn in that sense when it comes to this political stuff, because I know that there's a lot of people who are left-leaning who can be just blindly biased. Will they have good takes for why they feel that way? For sure. But will they also absolutely ignore certain points of views for their own benefit? Yeah, they will. And they'll try to justify it morally or ethically or emotionally or something along those lines. And a lot of times I might totally see where they're coming from. But at the same time, I know life is not as black and white as people want it to be, and that people are sometimes more sensitive than they probably should be, right? It's not a matter of always being emotionally conscious of other people around you, right? I don't think that's always going to be the answer. Like my comfort, your lack of comfort is not worth infringing on my rights, but that goes both ways, right? While I might feel slightly uncomfortable at some point in my life, like not now, but like let's say a previous version of me would be uncomfortable with someone who appears a female coming into the men's bathroom. But as I've gotten older and honestly like more secure in myself, I don't care who's using the bathroom. Like if I'm with my son, right? If I'm taking my son, he's like 7 years old. Yeah, he just turned 7 recently. Like if I'm in the bathroom with him and he has to go to the bathroom and it's a public bathroom, I'm near him. Nobody's going in the same stall as him. Done, right? Either I'm waiting outside the stall or I'm there with him, until he's done, right? I don't care. Now, even if I was a female, because my wife would probably say the same thing, right? And I'm not going to speak for her, but it's the same thing. Sometimes she has to take him to the ladies' room. She's not going to go into the men's room with him. The son is going to go into the female room, the ladies' room, and go with his mom. and it's the same thing. Like I'm using this as an example, right? Where my discomfort should not disallow somebody from using the bathroom that they want to use. That's how I feel about it, right? At the same time, that doesn't mean there can't be a conversation about that. That doesn't mean that there's other issues that are more gray that might need a discussion about things, right? Sports is one of those discussions that is like, it's so confusing because different sports work differently. There's different weight classes and divisions. So there's different ways to handle a lot of these issues. Yo, what up, Fabian? How you doing, man? I'm just chatting. The planned stream kind of fell off because my Baldur's Gate kept crashing for some reason. It kept crashing the stream. You got kidnapped. By who? Hopefully you're kidding. Okay. I'm almost out of water. How you doing, man? Other than being kidnapped, are you good now? Are you safe? Give me like a safe word or something, you know? Yeah, Fabian, I was talking about a few different things here. We were talking about some of the things that the Trump administration were doing. Say what now? Bruh. Okay, they want another finger. They want another finger.
What do you mean by
that? I don't know what to say to that. So carry on, good sir. I hope they enjoy the finger. I don't know what that was referring to, but yeah, have a good one. Thanks for stopping by, man. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of issues with our politicians, right? And I don't mind calling out all the different things. Now, I'm going to prioritize, right? I don't think, in terms of priorities, I don't think the Democrats smearing each other on their campaigns is as high as a priority as our administration going batshit crazy, right? They're not on the same level. But when I see it, should I call it out? I think so, yeah. I think I should. Because I've been using this analogy. It's a terrible analogy, and I'm sorry, but it's the only analogy that I can come up with when it comes to this. And it's this, that ever since the founding of America, and you can go further back, but we're going to start with America, some group of people or peoples have been eating trash, right? And that has never really changed. The only thing that changed, and this might not have been the only time, right? So I'm not going to speak on all of history, but in our lifetime, it has only been garbage. But when Trump got elected, we started eating shit. Okay. And again, it's not all peoples, it's certain groups of peoples. And then some people are eating shit, but are delusional about it. Some people aren't eating it at all, and they're eating good. And the reason may or may not have been because of Trump and his administration, but they're going to equate it to Trump and his administration, regardless of whether it had anything to do with him. Right. And then the other group is not going to accept that they're eating shit no matter what happens, even though they clearly are. It's on their plate. They're eating it. It's on their face. It's all over the place, everywhere. Gross. Disgusting. Right. We are so desperate to go back to trash that my concern is that we never start cleaning up the trash after we get rid of the shit. Right. I know it's a terrible analogy. I am sorry, but that is the best way that I can visualize the situation that we've been in off and on since 2016. And so I think it is important, nay, necessary, that we also call out all politicians, including the Democrats and independents, if they do this, for bad practice, for a lack of integrity, for finding loopholes or just outright breaking the law, whatever, right? We got to have some standards, both socially and behaviorally and performance wise, right? You know, these bills need to be a certain standard. And if they keep coming up with weird loopholes or things that people are doing or people are benefiting, there needs to be an urgent conversation and punishment or retribution. Like there needs to be some payback of money to groups of people. We can't have our politicians benefiting so much more than the average person. They're our representative. They're not our bosses. They're not necessarily even our leaders. They're our servants. They're public servants. They're supposed to serve us. So why are they getting served so much fucking money and we're getting served so much bullshit? I don't think I'm being unreasonable in saying that, right? I'm willing to call out any Democrat that I think or that is proven to be practicing just as bad ethics as any other Democrat. And there have been those. And we talked about some of those in this video, right? So there are those people out there. I don't think what I'm asking for is irrational. I don't think accountability is anything irrational. And I don't think the accountability specifically from President Trump is irrational to ask for. And for the people that don't think he's done anything wrong, I would challenge you to prove that, because the burden of evidence is on you. There's legally documentation about some of these things already, like a lot of these things already, right? And he's actively getting in the way of investigations like the Epstein trial, right? He is getting in the way at every turn that he can. He's still not being punished. He's not getting punished for something that is clearly stated to be against the law. Where is the accountability? If it doesn't start with him, none of the rest matters, because anybody can just attain presidency and do whatever the hell they want. And that does not send the right message to anybody, let alone our politicians beneath them, our citizens like ourselves, right? Our military, the workforce, other countries and their leaders. It doesn't send a good message to any of them. It's not something that we should be striving for or proud of or anything of that nature, that our president is getting away with all this bullshit. It's embarrassing. We should be embarrassed from our own leadership, right? And if you disagree, then tell me. Let me know why. Like last time I tried to debate somebody who was a Trump supporter, the last few times, they just went crazy. We talked about some of those debates during our live stream. We watched some of the footage before or listened to it. And these people don't want to be rational. They don't want to be rational. It's a shame. But for now, that is going to end my Wednesday stream. Thank you for letting me rant for a little bit. I think I needed that since my game kept crashing early tonight, or crashing at all. But hey, what can you do? For now, though, we gonna get on out of here. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with me. As always, we'll be back here Sunday at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. Come through. We're gonna be playing some Resident Evil 0 later, but we'll also be talking about some issues, racial issues within the world of Jim Crow. We've been breaking down Jim Crow for the last month or so now. We're going to continue to do so until we get to the very end of my journey. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you all in the next stream. Y'all have a great night. I will see y'all in the next one. Bye-bye.